strikes have left behind a trail of death and destruction. At least 182 people have been killed and over 720 wounded in a single day of attacks, Lebanon's health ministry reports. Among the dead are children, women, and paramedics, civilians paying the price in a conflict that shows no signs of slowing. As bombs fall, Lebanon's fragile healthcare system is overwhelmed by the sheer scale of casualties. In response to the growing crisis, the Lebanese Red Cross has mobilized all ambulance stations across the country. Teams are racing to the south, trying to rescue and recover victims from the rubble. Their efforts are heroic, but the destruction is vast. The Red Cross says the number of injured continues to rise, and the south of Lebanon has become a war zone once again. Despite the devastation, many Lebanese civilians are choosing to stay put. In the capital, Beirut, residents express a defiant determination not to be driven from their homes. "We've faced Israeli bombs before," one man says, "and we're not running this time." But beneath the surface, fear lingers. For many, leaving simply isn't an option. They don't have the money to flee or find shelter elsewhere. Adding to the tension, reports have surfaced that Israel has assassinated a senior Hezbollah commander, Sheikh Ali Abu Riyah, in one of their strikes. His death marks a significant blow to Hezbollah's leadership. As news of his assassination spreads, there's a sense that the conflict has entered a new, even more dangerous phase. Hezbollah has vowed retaliation, but for now, it's Israel's air campaign that dominates the skies. Iran, a staunch supporter of Hezbollah, has condemned the Israeli strikes, calling them insane and warning of dangerous consequences. Iranian officials have accused Israel of pushing the region toward all-out war, raising fears that the conflict could spiral out of control. The stakes are high, and for many in Lebanon, the future looks increasingly uncertain. Lebanon's civilian infrastructure is crumbling under the weight of these attacks. With the country already facing a crippling economic crisis, many homes have been reduced to ruins. Schools across southern Lebanon have been converted into emergency shelters for displaced families as the government scrambles to provide aid to those affected. But the question remains, how long can Lebanon hold out? In the aftermath of the strikes, Israel's defense minister, Yoav Gallant, remained resolute. He promised that the air campaign against Hezbollah would continue until we achieve our goals. For Gallant, that means ensuring Israeli civilians evacuated from northern border towns can safely return home. But for those still living in the south of Lebanon, the bombardment continues to destroy their lives. Netanyahu's government is facing increasing criticism, both at home and abroad, for the relentless nature of these strikes. Many argue that the Israeli Prime Minister is taking an aggressive gamble, escalating the conflict in a way that risks further destabilizing Lebanon and the wider region. As the air campaign continues, more civilians find themselves caught in the middle of a battle they have no control over. Israel's tactics have also drawn comparisons to its past campaigns in Gaza, where similar warnings were issued to civilians ahead of strikes. In southern Lebanon, Israeli forces are now sending text messages and phone calls to warn villagers to evacuate areas where Hezbollah is suspected of hiding weapons. But many can't leave either because they don't have the means or because they don't believe they'll be safer elsewhere. The Israeli military on the morning of September 23rd urged civilians in southern Lebanon to evacuate villages where Hezbollah is believed to be storing weapons, as the 11-month conflict with the militia neared the brink of all-out war after a week of heightened hostilities. Israel announced plans for more intense bombardments of Hezbollah strongholds, coinciding with what it called a new phase of extensive strikes across Lebanon. The military released a map identifying 19 villages in southern Lebanon, but did not specify which would be targeted or subject to evacuation. When asked if the evacuation order signaled a ground invasion, Israeli military spokesman Rear ADM Daniel Hagari told the New York Times that they are currently focusing on Israel's aerial campaign only. This latest move comes after a series of Israeli operations last week, including the destruction of parts of Hezbollah's communications networks and a rare airstrike on Beirut that reportedly killed senior Hezbollah commanders. Despite these efforts, Hezbollah has not backed down, prompting Israel to intensify its aerial offensive. Dozens of Israeli warplanes hit over 150 targets across Lebanon on the morning of September 23rd, with the strikes expected to continue in the coming hours, according to the Israeli military. In the early hours of the morning, Israeli forces launched one of their most intense airstrikes on Lebanon, destroying what they say was a modified Russian